Backstage.
We're back. We've got some goodies. Show and tell. Brian, run us through some of these things. What did you bring us?
Okay. Well, first is what's called quick match. It's basically a fuse inside. Let me see if I can get this here. Should have had this prepped ahead of time, but hey, didn't think it was going to go quite this way. All right, so here we go. So here, for example, you can see you've got, it's basically like a cotton string fuse that's enclosed in a paper tube. Now, when you have just the bare fuse, for example, it burns relatively slowly. Once it's encased in the paper tube, it burns incredibly fast, hence named quick match, because what happens is it has the effect of pushing the flame ahead. So it's almost instantaneous. If you're feeling particularly sadistic and want to show people the difference, what you would do is, I mean, obviously you would be, for example, I would have you wearing gloves, long sleeve shirt, and safety glasses, but I would have you hold that, and I would basically say, drop it as soon as it starts to go, once it gets into the tube, and I would light this, and then it would go slow, 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 and then almost instantaneously, and it would pretty well be gone before you were able to let go of it.
Right.
So it's
so in terms of delay, you really don't calculate. There's no delay.
No, the delay is based on the length of fuse. If you were hand firing, which again is extremely rare these days, if you were hand firing, you'd probably have a few inches of bare match. And what you do is you hold your flare or your butane torch, whatever you're using, not a cigarette lighter, something a bit more substantial. You would light it, make sure it's lit. You turn and walk away. You don't stand there and stare at it. You don't put anything over the top of the tube. You turn, you walk away. You're wearing full safety gear, but you still don't want to be that close to it when it goes off.
Right.
Once it fires, then you move on to the next one.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Now, if you want to get fancier when you start designing shows, you would have a number of shells would be chained together with quick match. So you might have like pieces of quick match going down from tube to tube to tube.
Right. So you could open this periodically and tie into it.
Tie into it, exactly.
Okay.
Now the thing about that is that unless you take specific steps, they're all still going to go at pretty much the same time because of the quick match. That's where things like these, which are delays, also called pyroclocks or whatever have you. So we've got, they're modular design.
Oh, it's not neat.
Yeah. So you can put in, if you have, like say this is like a 4 or 5, you can put in as many as you want. This piece here, the red piece.
Are they color-coded?
Yes, they are, is a delay. I think this is about a 3-second. They will have their different colors for different, a 3-second delay, a 5-second delay, a 1-second delay. So I mean, you could even mix and match within your row.
And you reuse these
usually you will not reuse them because they burn and they will melt.
Okay, I get it.
But so the idea is you have this put together. Now you notice we've got yellow and then we have blue. For example, so the blue is this would be quick match as well that goes into the shell. So you'd have this one, let's say you don't have anything here, or you have a shell here, but you have this one, it catches, after it burns through this, it catches this on fire, which burns its way down, it gets to this one, sets off that shell, burns to the next one, and keeps going. Then it gets to this one, you have another almost instantaneous, and then again it starts with however many seconds of delay that you've set on there.
Right.
This is more of the high-tech version that's a modular type. There's also the more classic type, which is generally just a single piece, which if you're applying it directly yourself and it's not pre-attached from the factory, they'll usually have like what we call a bucket on the end. Think of a coin wrapper, for example. And actually, a lot of pyros will use coin wrappers as buckets. And then you put your ends of your quick match in there, butt them up against the delay that's built into that, and either tape it or tie it shut. It's the same principle. This is just a more high-tech version.
Right.
So this is the type of stuff that you would use for your display fireworks.
Right. Awesome.
So I didn't bring any display shells. Actually, I think in the one box, I think I have a piece from a shell that didn't ignite. Yeah, can you hand me that one there? I've got a bunch of stuff here. This is where I put most of the goodies. Excuse me, I think. Yeah, here. So this is a leftover piece from a fireworks shell that goes inside the big shell that didn't ignite. And you notice it has the lovely little sticker. You see that sticker there?
I see that sticker. Explosive, it says.
Yep.
In 50 languages.
It's the regulations that say if you have individual bomblets like this inside, they all have to be labeled that way.
Right.
So that hopefully people are smart enough to not screw around with it should they find it. There have been instances of that happening where. So
is this more like a primer in a sense? It sets off the.
No, that's actually a sub piece. So your burst charge would blow the shell apart, and this would be lit as part of that and go off and then make another smaller explosion.
Okay.
So say this would be a piece that goes inside the shell. This actually got a little bit of a lift charge in it as well.
Right.
Okay, what else have we got here? I've got a lot of theatrical product here. So you want to read the label on that one?
All right, this one says Stage Gerb 10S.
Yep. So gerb is just a fancy way of saying fountain. It's 10S times, and this one has been pulled off of a board, so the label is ripped. So I don't know how high this would shoot if we were to fire it. Gerbs are usually measured in the time and then the distance. So if you have a 1/2 by 10, that means it fires for half a second and goes up to 10 feet. And the way they measure them is they will, the manufacturers, they will take it, they will, measure it against a grid, and the highest spark that goes up, even if it's only one spark that gets up to that 10 feet, it's a 10-foot gerb. So
that's not necessarily the main body, though.
No, that won't necessarily be the main body, but that's the maximum height that it's rated for.
I see.
So, you may have, I wouldn't use this one in a show. I might just throw it in as an effect somewhere, just, on a Halloween show to make it look good, but I wouldn't be counting on it for anything particular.
Right.
But, normally you have to know how high it is, because if you've got a gerb that shoots 30 feet and you're in a room with a ceiling that's only 15 feet, you haven't done your math properly.
Now, if you keep it dry and in a proper enclosure like this, what kind of a life are we talking?
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can just keep them in control. Let's say most of these things I keep here. This, for example, here, this is an example of what we were talking about before about two component powders, the binary system. Nowadays, when you're buying your powders, it could be flash powder, this is concussion powder, for example. It comes in the two bottles. You have the A and the B parts. You have a fuel and your oxidizers. And the quantities are pre-measured, so what you do is you take and you pull your caps off and you dump the one into the other, make sure you tap it all in there, cap this back over, just gently rock it back and forth. Don't shake it. It's not a martini.
Yeah.
Don't go crazy with it, or you'll bruise the gin. Mix it all up, and then you're ready to go. If you don't use it all in one shot, then you have to treat it like any other explosive and store it properly. And what we generally do is we'll put the date that we mix it on there.
Right.
So we know. I actually have some from that I assembled 2 years ago for Halloween, and it's still potent. So
it's like Wimmis.
Yeah.
Wimmis, same thing. You should never have any container that has no label on it.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what it is.
Yeah. And as I say, that one gerb, I would never use that for a show. I would just, I'll probably throw it in my Halloween shows. I'll just throw it in there somewhere for
it'll do
something to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It'll look good, but out there, I doubt that's going to go 20 feet. But if it goes 20 feet, it's no big deal. If it goes 10 feet, it's no big deal. It's just there.
Right.
This is a Dream Star, also called a cake fountain or an ice fountain. It's a sparkler that burns relatively cool. I don't know if you've ever burned yourself on the hot wire from a sparkler.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
These are designed to be used for example, centerpieces. We could mount it, say, on top of the microphone,
right,
and go ooh ah and have this pretty spark. Sparks go about yay high.
Yeah.
But it's
like a bright white.
It's white. It's cool burning. Now that does not mean it's cold. It just means it's not as hot as other stuff.
Right.
We used something similar to this, if you remember, from the opening ceremonies for the Olympics. The tap dancers had sparks on their shoes, and the fiddlers had sparks on the bows. It wasn't this particular model, but this was the type of thing that we used. They were all wired. The dancers had wires coming at their pants legs onto a battery pack. We had metal copper tubes mounted on the bottom of their shoes, right next to the heel. And this would be slid in and secured, and then E-match attached.
How long does it last?
Usually 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
And for the bows, it was something similar, but there was a switch on the bow with a battery for that.
Cool.
Here, let's see. Okay, here's one where they are labeled. So these are 25 by 12, which means 25 second, 12 feet.
So that's here, Gerb, 25 by 12 silver. That's what that means.
Yeah. Now you'll notice you've got a plastic cap on there. And the electric match, I'll show you some more examples of electric match, are packaged separately.
We call these squibs. Is squib the same thing?
Well, a squib is used interchangeable with electric match. You would not call that a squib.
No, that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's where the terminology is important, because depending on the environment you're in, a squib can mean something entirely different. Can mean a bullet hit. Now, I've actually got some of those. I'll show you. But this is the electric match here.
Right. And that goes in the little hole.
Yeah, and with these, they will come with instructions to tell you how to do it. And with these, you've got the little hole in there, and you put that in just inside. You don't cram it down into the choke of the fountain. They're very specific about this, and that's because you don't want to screw anything up. Then you would pull some of this wire out, put a piece of tape on it to hold it there and make sure it doesn't get torn out. And then, well, I'm just...
Now you've done it.
Now I've done it. So I'm just going to leave that one in there for right now. I thought that might happen, but, that's not a problem.
So this allows somebody to reliably set something off without having to run around with a match.
Exactly.
It's electrically done.
Yeah. There is generally a difference between a gerb like this, which is designed to be shot upwards, and what's called a waterfall, which is designed to be shot downwards. But these can be shot pointing down. Oh, and that's another thing, is your label.
Yes.
Always look for which direction it goes. If you don't see that, be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else we got here? An air burst.
Aha.
This is an air burst. So what that is again, there's a specific type of powder called air burst. It's designed for a quick flash and to burn out before it hits the ground.
Right.
This would be hung from the air. You see, like in one of the clips that I sent you, there's some air bursts. And
we'll have some clips on here showing Brian at work. So what is there's a squib in there?
Yes, this is an electric match. You can buy air bursts that are pre-made. This one was done old school. You take a piece of saran wrap, pour your powder in it, put the E-match in, and then we used a little cable tie to attach the whole thing. It's relatively tight, relatively.
And that's what, black powder probably in there?
It's airburst powder.
Okay.
Yeah, they have specific powders, and you can get them. It's like red, gold, with sparks, without sparks, big sparks, little sparks. So lots of things like this. We're almost to the bullet hits.
Everybody wants to see
Don't get
the bullet.
excited. Don't get excited.
I'm trying. I'm calm.
Yeah, which actually. Okay, I'll have to go into one of the other boxes for the backing tape. We'll deal with that later. All right, so this is more theatrical product. Again, got your little point up here. This is, oh wait, not that one. Not that one. So that's got, there we go, yeah. You can read what that one says.
All right. This says Mine AF, 20 feet red.
Yeah. Basically, it means that it's a mine, which means that it just shoots off a bunch of colored stars, in this case red, and they'll go as high as 20 feet.
Right.
Now, this is pre-wired. You'll notice this is already pre-wired. So depending on how you're mounting it, you usually have to move your wire up so that you mount it and you're not getting your wire stuck underneath or whatever. The cap comes off beforehand, and if you look in there, you can actually see. You probably can't see that. I don't know.
Let me try.
There's basically, you can see the stars in there.
I'll move that around. There's a it looks like a membrane.
Yeah.
A clear membrane, and I can see look like little marshmallows.
Yeah, and those are the stars, so that the powder charge in there will ignite the stars, shoot them up in the air, and they fly all over the place. Right. Well, within reason.
Now, something like this.
Yeah.
In terms of the launching mechanism, can they be just buried in sand? Is that
No, these again would be in theory you could bury them in sand, but these are primarily designed as indoor effects. So you would have them either mounted in like a stage box or on a board or something like that.
Okay.
So that's what those are.